The journey to success was long, hard, and arduous, but who wants to bother with that when you can get into a life of crime and actually make just as much money as some of the world's wealthiest men and women without actually paying taxes on your money? So, in this video, we're going to show you insanely rich criminals who are richer than a typical billionaire. The video is going to be amazing, so make sure you stick till the end. Griselda Blanco. When you think of billionaire criminals, you often think of men, but Griselda Blanco was a powerful criminal with a billionaire bank account to match. She was one of the wealthiest criminals in the world, with a net worth of over $2 billion. She was at the forefront of the cocaine drug trade in Miami in the 1950s. Some people believe she even pioneered the trade herself. She was a hardened criminal, quick to get rid of anyone who stood in her way. As such, she was responsible for the murders of more than 200 people involved in drug smuggling from Colombia to New York. This earned her the nickname the Black Widow. Blanco was killed in 2012 at the age of 69. Al Capone. Al Capone's name is synonymous with criminal billionaires. Capone is one of the most famous criminals that ever lived. Capone's net worth sat around $1.3 billion at its peak. And although he is widely known for his wealth, Capone is also famous for his attempts to kill Bugs Moran, head of the North Side Gang. He was also responsible for the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929, where 7 members of the North Side Gang were lined up and shot in broad daylight. Capone was never convicted of the many crimes he committed. He was very powerful, and as such, he was extremely hard to catch and convict. However, the authorities finally got Capone for tax evasion. Capone served 6 years in prison, which isn't really that much considering the crimes he committed. He was released in 1947, but his freedom was short-lived. Capone died of a heart attack on January 25, 1947, shortly after his release. Dennis Kozlowski. Kozlowski is one of the biggest and bravest embezzlers the world has ever seen. During only a 2-year time frame from 1999 to 2001, Kozlowski awarded himself $81 million in unauthorized bonuses. He was the CEO of Tyco International, which was a security and fire protection company based out of New Jersey. Kozlowski spent his money as quickly as he could embezzle, splurging on yachts and luxury New York real estate. He was, though, convicted of embezzlement. He was sentenced to 25 years at the Mid-State Correctional Facility in New York, although he was conditionally released in 2014. Frank Lucas. Frank Lucas's life of crime had somewhat modest beginnings, though he began his criminal activities with petty theft. From there, though, he became a force to be reckoned with, and is one of the most famous drug lords of the 1970s. He had unique ways of smuggling drugs. It's been rumored that he smuggled drugs into the US in the coffins of Vietnam War soldiers. His story inspired the blockbuster movie American Gangster. He was arrested 18 times throughout his life, but he was only ever convicted 3 times. And although his net worth was well over $52 million, experts believed that it was actually worth a lot more because he had money stashed away and hidden. George Jung. George Jung and his drug smuggling empire were made famous when Jung was portrayed by Johnny Depp in the feature film Blow. Born in Boston, Jung became one of the most successful cocaine smugglers of the 1970s and 1980s. Jung was arrested in 1987, but he skipped bail and settled down in Kansas. It didn't last long though. Jung was caught again in 1994, and he had 1,700 pounds of cocaine in his possession. Jung's criminal behavior landed him in prison. He was sentenced to 60 years, but was released after serving only 20 of them. At the time of his arrest, Jung was worth well over $100 million. Anthony Salerno. In 1987, Fortune magazine called Anthony Salerno the most powerful and wealthiest gangster in America. Nicknamed Fat Tony, Salerno was worth close to $1 billion. He made his money in several different ways. He was a loan shark, charging huge interest rates on any money lent. He was notorious for committing casino fraud, and he is most famous for his mafia tax, which he charged on various construction sites throughout New York City. His life of crime caught up with him, though. Salerno was eventually convicted of 2 separate federal cases of racketeering. The first sentence was for 100 years, and the second sentence was for 17 years. Salerno died in prison in 1992 from complications of a stroke, but his infamy lives on. He is often shown in pictures wearing his telltale t-shirt and fedora. Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky made his criminal fortune by working as an accountant for the mob. Lansky was an integral part of mob activity, and together with his friend Bugsy Siegel, he helped to develop Las Vegas into the gambling empire that it is today. He also helped develop the National Crime Syndicate. He was very creative with his money laundering, using a variety of casinos and Swiss bank accounts. But Lansky was charged in 1970 for tax evasion. He didn't want to go to prison, so he tried to emigrate to Israel. It didn't work, and Lansky was forced to face his convictions. He wasn't sentenced to prison, though. Instead, he was acquitted because his health had deteriorated. He died in 1983 of lung cancer with only $35,000 in his bank account. But during his peak, Lansky was worth well over $400 million. What is your opinion about these insane million-dollar celebrity criminals? This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Bye!